was 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.55 seconds. I'm Clayton Seams, and I am in the new for 2023 Kia EV6 GT. Would you have ever thought I'd be sitting here driving a 12-second Kia? That makes it the fastest Kia ever made. 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.55 seconds. The big news here is that this is a special sport version of the EV6. Now, the standard EV6 is a car we've already driven and reviewed a lot. We did a winter test of the all-wheel drive version, and we compared it to a Ford Mustang Mach-E. But today, we're all about the EV6 GT, the sport version. So how did they make the world's fastest Kia? In the regular all-wheel drive EV6, the 160 kilowatt motor is in the back. In the GT, they take that motor and move it to the front, and in the back, they put a new, larger 240 kilowatt motor, aka it's very fast. Now, the EV6 uses the standard long-range battery pack, which means that weight has really only increased 42 kilograms, which is not bad considering the amount of performance, which, by the way, is up 256 horsepower than the regular version. It now makes 576 horsepower and 545 pound-feet of torque, which is 99 pound-feet more than the standard model. So the jump in performance from the standard model to the GT is significant. Now, you do pay for that performance. Range of this model is down. In fact, it has the lowest range of any EV6 model in the lineup. Partly that's because of the larger motors, and it's also due to the fact that this has larger 255 section tires versus the other models which have narrower tires, which are better for efficiency. But enough chit chat. We know EVs are fast. Are they still fun? So with that in mind, we're going to put it in drive, and I'm going to press the GT button on the steering wheel, and we'll answer that question. So the EV6 GT rides on the same global platform that you would find the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6 on, and this is simply Kia's version of it. But what's new is the absolute thrust this thing has. We're so used to EV torque, but it's still a little bit shocking. I like to drive it in GT mode, which you get the sharpest throttle response, honestly, the most energy consumption, and in my opinion, it's the most fun. You can just kind of filter it through the turns, but the thing is not the turn, it's in between the turns. This is a heavy car, somewhere around 2,200 kilograms, but you wouldn't know by the way it accelerates. And in between turns, you can just shoot from corner to corner. It's so fast. And as you saw there, it likes to slide. It's a little bit tail happy. It's worth noting that it is a brisk February day. It's about 2 degrees, and this car is actually on winter tires. But the hallmark of this car is that it's like the first EV I've driven that wants to rotate. It has more power in the back than the front, and it's not just plow forever. I love how easy it is to engage launch control, and it encourages you to use it kind of all the time. It's a bunch of fun, and honestly, you can do it enough to where it feels a little nauseating. The G-forces are intense, and even at just mid-range speeds, you can just whack the throttle and be sent into hyperspace. Now, I realize that there are far crazier EVs, Taycan Turbo S's, Tesla Plaids, but it's crazy to me to see this kind of power in something that's under $100,000. But in my opinion, what the EV6 GT does better than most other EVs, especially in this price bracket, is that it's fun to drive other than launch control. Most of the other high-power EVs, I get it, they're fun. You put them in launch mode and they just sling off into the sunset. But that's kind of all they do. They don't have that fun-to-drive feeling that I want from an enthusiast car. And you need a car, I think, that's fun to drive other than launch control, because most of your driving is, well, driving, not from a standing start going to speed. Now, as a fun-to-drive car, you are kind of paying for it with your lack of range. You have a big battery, so you got lots of power, but you are giving up a lot of range for this performance. That said, it's still fun to just put it down wherever you want. Now, once you start to take this thing into the corners, I immediately kind of noticed that the steering is pretty vague. there's not really any feeling in it, and that's because it's got a lot of torque running through it, so they kind of have to boost it. That said, it is precise, and 2 spokes was the right call for the steering wheel because I almost never have to go hand over hand in this car. The rack is pretty quick. And it just the way it filters through turns and then slingshots to the next turn is really amusing because in a way you're always in the right gear. The torque is always available. But like I said earlier, what its calling card is for an EV is that it wants to slide in a playful, fun way, like a Miata, not a trying to kill you way, like a Viper would. You can be a bit naughty with this car. It's pretty fun. And again, I am on winter tires, and I'm sure the handling would be a bit different on a warmer road with sporting tires. Now, one thing that's notably absent from this as a sporty car is adaptive dampers. I realize there's a lot of mass at play, and Kia engineers have probably wisely decided to err on the side of softer springing. It's an enthusiast car, but you don't pay for it with rock-hard suspension like you would on a BMW M model. So I really like that. But it does mean that when you really load it up in the corners, you do feel some body movement. But that's not really a downside for me. I like to feel the car moving around, and most roads aren't perfectly smooth. So the smoother suspension is honestly welcome. And when you have big power and big weight, you want big brakes. These are 15-inch front rotors, 14.2-inch in the rear, and they have authoritative stopping power. They really haul this thing down, which is good because you can go pretty quick in it. So is the Kia EV6 GT fun? I mean, you'd have to be pretty stone cold to say it's not fun. But I do also have to say it's a different kind of fun than a gas car or even a fast one. I want to do another launch just because I can. One thing about the EV6 GT launch control compared to other ones I've tried is that it allows a lot more slip. It's pretty amusing. Let's try it again. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh. It will genuinely wrap your stomach around your spine. The 3.5 seconds in this crazy day and age does not sound that ludicrous. I'm telling you, it feels fast. If there's a downside to this as a fun car, it's, well, that when you're not on the throttle, when you're not launching it or sending it through turns, there's kind of nothing else to tell you that it's a fun, fast car. Whereas if I was driving a Porsche sports car or a V8 powered Dodge Challenger, even if I'm not going fast in those cars, by the sound of the engine and the way the car looks, I always know I'm in something a little bit special. But when I'm not on the throttle, this feels like a Kia EV6, which is a fine car. We've reviewed it before. We really like the EV6. But the nature of EVs means that unless you're on it, it kind of just feels, well, normal. And it must be said there are a lot of sporty cues in the interior that I like. For example, in the morning and at night, these green accents light up. It's very subtle. I like that. And these sports seats are really good. Honestly, top tier. I like the suede. It holds you in place. They're comfortable and supportive. A 10 out of 10 sports seat in my opinion. And they look great. Kia really nailed this as a performance trim of the EV6. I can't believe that they built this from the EV6. It drives so much differently. I think in summary, the EV6 GT is a sporty EV that kind of does it all. You're looking at pitting this up against the Mustang Mach-E GT, which is a comparison I would love to do in the future. But the virtues of the EV6 GT are pretty hard to ignore. You have full seating for 5, generous cargo capacity, all while being really fast and very fun to drive. Of course, you do compromise a lot for that performance with the range. I mean, power is energy, and more energy means less range. It's simple math. If I was going to spend money on EV6, as fun as this is, I'd probably go for the long-range rear-wheel drive. But if you gotta have that performance, it's pretty addictive. And I commend Kia Engineering for giving us a car that allows us to play with that balance, with a little bit of safe oversteer rather than the forever plow of most EVs. So is the electric future looking fun? I think so, but it must be said, it is a different kind of fun than we've come to know and expect from gasoline-powered enthusiast cars. For more EV news and reviews, don't forget to check out our website at Driving.ca.